Parts 1 and 2 established two things. The government ran systematic unconsenting human experimentation programs staffed by Nazi researchers in the same institutional moment they wrote the ethics code prohibiting it. And the research wasn't about medicine. It was about engineering the body out of the equation entirely. Part 3 answers the next question. If the technology is human and the pilots are purpose-built, how does the cover story hold for 80 years? The answer is one of the most elegant information management operations in the history of institutional deception. And it's all documented. Here's what a good cover story needs to accomplish. It needs to explain the unexplained without triggering further investigation. It needs to discredit witnesses without visibly discrediting them. And ideally, it needs to do both of those things while making the people asking questions feel like the problem. The alien narrative does all three. Project Blue Book, 1952 to 1969. The official U.S. Air Force investigation into unidentified aerial phenomena. 12,618 reported sightings investigated over 17 years. 701 listed as officially unexplained at close. The Condon Report, commissioned in 1966, concluded there was no national security threat and no evidence of extraterrestrial origin. Project Blue Book was shuttered in 1969. That's the official close of the official investigation. What the declassified record shows is something different. The Robertson Panel, January 1953. CIA convened. 1 week of closed sessions. The panel's classified recommendations didn't focus on whether the phenomena were real. They focused on public belief about whether the phenomena were real. Specific recommendations: a coordinated public education campaign to reduce civilian interest in UFO reporting, strip the phenomena of its special status, reduce the signal-to-noise ratio in the reporting pipeline. In plain language, make fewer people feel like their sightings were worth reporting. That's not a scientific conclusion. That's an information management strategy. And it worked in two directions simultaneously. Direction 1. Suppress legitimate reports of classified aircraft by flooding the category with noise, ridicule, and institutional dismissal. A pilot who sees a U-2 at 70,000 feet and reports it gets filed under probable aircraft or psychological. A civilian who sees an SR-71 over Nevada gets filed under the same category as the guy who thinks he was taken aboard a ship. Same file, same dismissal, same outcome. Direction 2. When something genuinely anomalous gets reported, something that isn't a weather balloon, isn't swamp gas, isn't a classified aircraft the investigator has clearance to identify, the alien explanation is already preloaded in the public imagination. The witness fills in the blanks themselves. You don't need to manage the story. The story manages itself. Episode 4 of this series establishes the proof of concept. 1938, Orson Welles, one radio broadcast. Mass public acceptance of a narrative that had no physical evidence, no official confirmation, and was broadcast on a medium that had already aired conventional programming that same evening. The lesson wasn't that people are gullible. The lesson was that a well-structured narrative delivered through a trusted channel in a moment of uncertainty produces belief that resists correction even after the correction is issued. The Office of Radio Research studied that broadcast. Paul Lazarsfeld, Frank Stanton, both went on to prominent positions in media and institutional research. The data from that night didn't disappear. It got filed. By the early 1950s, the institutional apparatus had 4 things operating simultaneously: a documented history of managing public belief through media, a classified aircraft program producing unexplained aerial phenomena at scale, a cover narrative, alien visitation, culturally preloaded through decades of science fiction, the 1938 broadcast, and the emerging post-war UFO wave, and a formal CIA recommendation to actively manage the signal-to-noise ratio in UFO reporting. Those four things in the same institutional moment are not a coincidence. That's the architecture. Now add what the technology record shows. Remote piloted aircraft aren't a recent development. The radioplane OQ-2, 1940, produced in the tens of thousands during World War II. Target drones, remote operation at range. Teledyne Ryan Firebee, 1951. Jet-powered drone, reconnaissance, operational missions over denied territory. The Ryan Model 147 Lightning Bug, covert reconnaissance missions over China and North Vietnam, early 1960s, classified for decades. That's the declassified edge of the remote piloted record. The classified programs ran ahead of it. That's how classification works. The Lockheed Skunk Works produced the U-2 in 1955, the SR-71 in 1964, the F-17 in 1981. Each program classified, each program producing aircraft genuinely inexplicable to any observer without clearance, each program declassified on a timeline determined entirely by institutional decision, not by capability. The F-117 flew combat missions in Panama in 1989. The public didn't know it existed until 1988. Didn't see it until 1990. A decade of operational flight. Invisible. If the declassified record shows a decade-long gap between operational capability and public acknowledgement for conventional fixed-wing aircraft, what's the gap for something less conventional? And if the pilot inside that something less conventional doesn't need a body, what does the recovered craft actually contain? Documented. Remote piloted aircraft operational since 1940. Classified programs routinely running 10 to 20 years ahead of public acknowledgement. Cover narratives for classified aerial phenomena officially recommended by CIA in 1953. UFO reporting pipeline officially managed to reduce civilian signal. Isolated neural tissue sustainment confirmed in peer-reviewed science. Artificial gestation confirmed in peer-reviewed science. Non-human biologics testified to under oath in Congressional Record 2023. The upper range of classified remote piloted and purpose-built biological technology in any given decade is unknown. The alien narrative functions as self-sustaining cover requiring minimal active management. Witness credibility destruction comes built in. You don't need to silence a pilot who reports something anomalous over a test range. You just need the word UFO to already mean something specific in the cultural vocabulary. And you need the alternative explanation, the human one, to sound even crazier than the alien one. That's the elegant part. They didn't just build the cover story, they built it so the truth would discredit itself. Which brings us to now. The UAP hearings, 2017 to present. Congressional testimony. Controlled disclosure. Named witnesses with military credentials given platforms, official sanction, and carefully bounded claims. Disclosure as a managed process. Not a revelation, a release. The cover story doesn't end when the cover is partially lifted. It continues in the lifting. What gets released, when it gets released, and how it gets framed, those are still institutional decisions. And it's not ours, is still a cover for you don't have clearance for what it is. The cover story doesn't just protect the secret. It protects the secret by making the truth sound crazy. The moment a witness says what they actually saw, and the only available explanation is human technology operating 20 years ahead of public acknowledgement, they get filed next to the guy with the tinfoil hat. That's not a side effect of the architecture. That's the whole point of it. Part 4 is the close. We follow the money. We follow the contracts. We follow the people. From Nuremberg, 1946, to a one-page DOJ document signed in May 2026. And it all lands in the same place. Full episodes of the Echoes of Disclosure series are on Substack and First Light Archive. The truth they hid wasn't alien. It was human. It was always human.